Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Flying and Eating. Today, let's go somewhere and do something, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Hey everybody, it's Adam here. On the last episode of Flying and Eating, we made our way out to Guam. From there, we went up to Saipan and the CNMI and had adventures there. Went back to Guam, and now we are back in Honolulu. So in today's episode, I'm just going to show you a little bit of Waikiki.
Good morning. It is day 8, or sort of technically day 7 again, here on Honolulu, because I left Guam on January 20th, got back here to January 19th, and it's now January 20th again, so I'm kind of repeating a day. It happens. But anyway, so I don't have a whole lot of time, but I'm gonna walk around Honolulu a little bit, show you guys just a couple of microcosm highlights, because that's all I have time for before I have to head to the airport. But the first one I want to show you is more of a sentimental thing to me. This is the Hyatt Regency, which I know is just a hotel, but when I was a kid, we took a trip down here when I was like 9 years old, and you can tell based on the story I'm about to tell you, this is where I got a lot of my personality. My mom had to come down here for work purposes, so she took us as well as a babysitter at the time, and she was like, okay, the three of you go have fun, have an adventure. I have to go do a bunch of work, and and so we would just go right over to the beach, have a good time. And you know, I traveled a lot as a kid because my mom constantly had to do stuff, but in this case it was special because she had to go to Hawaii. I didn't realize, you know, as an adult I would end up coming here multiple times, but it's just kind of serendipitous to find that same hotel that I stayed at as a kid. And now I'm staying around the corner because her company ain't paying for it like they used to. So this is the infamous Waikiki Beach. I'll give you guys a little bit of a microcosm tour of it. But yeah, this is it. And here's the water, which I guess I have to touch, right? Even with my shoes on, because I'm stupid. There you go, shoes get all wet and messed up. But I did it, just like USVI. I'll take you guys closer over here. The mountain you're seeing back there is Diamond Head. I'll get you a better view of that in a bit, although we're not going to go super far down just because we don't have time. See? Eggs and Things is Hawaiian. We went there in Guam, remember? I could take you there, but there's no point. I have a specific place in mind. I'm going to take you guys for breakfast. One of the things I find the most interesting about Hawaii, actually, ironically, isn't about the state itself, but its relationship with the other 49 states. Unlike Guam and CNMI, which truly get no representation as they're not even states, Hawaii obviously is. Where we are standing right now is every bit as America as Manhattan. And legally is represented as such. But what I find interesting is the sheer number of people who do not understand that Hawaii is a state, even on the mainland, to the point of it being depressing and saying a lot about the American educational system. Like, it's one thing to not know Guam. I mean, that's unfortunate, but it is, you know, it is a thing. But like, I was talking to some friends who were like, man, you get to go to Hawaii? I don't even have a passport. I could never get there. And I'm just like, why would you need a passport? It's part of the same country. You don't need a passport. Like, where does this misconception come from? And then there's people who think it's its own country, and then other people who think it's part of like another country. Like, I've heard people think that Hawaii's part of Australia. It's like, what? Americans, please work on your geography. I'm begging you. You know, you can argue against the politics of it, the history of it, whatever, but one way or another, you were granted as an American these beautiful land masses. Your country is huge. Learn about it, appreciate it, respect it, visit it, see it, enjoy it. It's so amazing. Get out there and try to just live in it. Don't stay in your bubble. Nothing good comes of that. We're going to walk out to this little pier. This is pretty much as far as we're going on foot. And that'll give you some nice vantage points of the right, where you can see, you know, the more infamous side of Waikiki Beach, the more famous side, if you will. A lot of movies and stuff have actually been filmed over there. And eventually, over on the right, you can see it already, Diamond Head. You'll get a lot of that. Actually, I'm not 100% on the geography, but I think right around there is also what is now referred to as Jurassic Valley, because that's where they filmed the Jurassic Park stuff. So that is Diamond Head at sunrise. As a kid, I actually remember we climbed that. Not like, don't envision like mountain climbers. They have a nice, so we say, tourist compatible walkway on there. And if you do that whole thing, there's like a t-shirt you can get. I remember having that for years. It said, I climbed Diamond Head, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. That's a real thing. They actually do that. So, with a little bit of tourism complete, it's time to go get something to eat. The place I'm going to take you to is not actually like my favorite place in Honolulu. Like, my favorite breakfast place is a little too far to get to, and I want to save that for another time. The one I'm going to take you to is well, I forget the name. I think it's called like the Salt Cafe or something like that. The reason I want to take you there is more of a me reason. So, like, if you haven't gotten the hint of it a little bit on this trip, you know, I pointed out the hotel I stayed in as a kid and all that sort of stuff. Talked a little bit about my mom. You know, she's the reason I would travel a lot. I got that from her. But we had very different motivations when it came to traveling. Like, I'm doing this, I'm having a good time. I do it for work a lot of the time as well. But my contribution to society on that basis is limited. The most I can do for you guys is, like, I'll make some videos and point things out and hopefully help people to enjoy their trips better and maybe even motivate you a little bit to get out and go do something. She was different. You know, she traveled to Vietnam like 6 times. And the reason she did that wasn't she just loved Vietnam. It's because she would go there and be like, I want to teach English, I want to help these kids out, I want to do this and that and the other. And then she would get there and assess the situation. Okay, these kids, they don't have glasses. There's no money for that. There's no money for school books. There's none of that. So she would come back and she would meet up like with former clients when she used to have like a real job. And she'd be like, look, I made you guys all a bunch of money. I know you have money because I did it for you. So now you're going to use some of that money and you're going to buy books for these kids because they don't have money. And then she would go back with glasses and books and all sorts of stuff and help these kids have like a better education. She did that a lot. I can't do anything that noble. I'm not that good. But at least with the videos, I hope that I can help you guys just get out more, enjoy your trips, have better lives. Don't be afraid of the world. There's so much beauty in this world, and so much of it, especially if you're an American in this case, so much of it that's so readily accessible to you that you can enjoy at any time. Now, what does it have to do with the restaurant we're going to? The restaurant we're going to is the last trip she and I ever took before she passed away, which was slightly before the pandemic started, was here. And it was this particular restaurant. In fact, I don't know, I'm hoping I can get the same table, because there's this photo I took of her sitting there. I had no idea it was the last photo I was ever going to take of her. So I'd kind of like to sit there and just kind of live in that moment again, not realizing, because that's going to happen to everybody at one point, man. You're going to have a moment and not realize it's the last one. And that's part of the reason I say travel, because it all can end at any random moment, and you want to have these adventures and experiences that made life with other people richer. That's the only other way I can put it. So I'm hoping to kind of relive that moment. You know, people ask, like, you know, you look at the beach and you compare it to Guam. Like, yeah, it's a very nice beach, but there's people on it. This is like 7 in the morning and there's already tons of people there. Guam, the busiest ever got was like 4 people. So I thought I'd talk, while we're here, I thought I'd talk very briefly about the history of Hawaii. Like, I'm no expert on this one. This is vaguely what I remember from school. The Hawaiian Islands were each a series of islands that were inhabited and were essentially separate, like unified, like not a unified anything. They obviously had local indigenous populations, and like all islands, eventually the Europeans were like, these are cool. Particularly the British. There was a little bit of an alliance between the British and the Hawaiian Islands, but they were largely allowed to maintain autonomy. And then eventually, Uncle Sam, the US, said, no, we kind of want that. So they came in and they, you know, basically colonized and annexed the territory, and it became the territory of Hawaii, underseen by the United States. And they dethroned, there was actually a royal family here that was in charge. They dethroned them and eventually illegitimized their government, and it was US territory stuff until basically what accelerated it into statehood was the Second World War. Pearl Harbor, which unfortunately we're not going to see on this trip, got bombed, as you know. That was a big uproar. That's what started us into the war. But it was eventually, it was kind of like you went to war over this, over the attack on Pearl Harbor, yet Hawaii itself isn't even a state. Like, it just felt unequal. So as typically happens in American history, when you want to add a new state, you have to add 2 for political balance, let's say. So Alaska and Hawaii both got added in 1959. I think it was January of 1959, signed in by President Eisenhower. And it's been, as of now, it's the 50th state. It is the last one ever entered. It shouldn't be the last. The territories should get statehood. But what's interesting about it is, you remember, I just mentioned they weren't unified. The islands were all separated. Each one was a separate territory. And eventually they said, if you want to be a state, you got to merge into one. And I think that that same policy is what should apply to Guam and the CNMI. I think they should be a state together. I also think if you want to give Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands statehood, unfortunately it would probably have to work the same way, where they're all kind of one. Although I think those two in particular wouldn't necessarily agree to that, just because USVI would be very outpowered by Puerto Rico, and frankly Puerto Rico doesn't need the USVI to get statehood. But it would be more likely to work. But anyway, you know, and then American Samoa, I don't know what you do with that. But also incidentally, if you want to go to American Samoa, the only way to get there is from here. It is the only place that goes there. This isn't it, and I actually don't know where it is, but when I was just talking about the little history lesson, there was an imperial family. As a result, that created two things. One, this is the only state in the Union that actually has a imperial palace on it, like an official like monarchy palace, because there was a position of royalty that was officially entered into the Union, even though the monarchy itself was dissolved of all any real power. The other point is, if you ever look at the Hawaiian state flag, you'll notice the Union Jack on it, you know, the British flag. The thing, and that was because of a direct defiance thing. They were basically agreeing and sticking with the British over us, but it didn't matter because ultimately they were annexed. In Hawaii's way, having that there is a symbol of rebellion against the US. Much like Guam, Hawaii makes an effort to appeal to Japanese tourists. Hence you see a Lawson, which is a Japanese convenience store. So this is a mall that links the main street we were just on back over to the street that has the udon and all that stuff. This is like the super tourist area, but what's cool about this mall is it's open air. It doesn't rain that much, and obviously it doesn't get very cold here, so this is just a neat thing to experience. But beyond that, yeah, it's just a mall. On that last trip I was talking about with my mom, this is actually where we stayed. And we would cross over here, get food. There's a Starbucks over there. She would get a lot of chai tea lattes, and we would go to Marukame Udon. So if you ever see this term, Kona, that actually means the coffee is Hawaiian. That may seem obvious, but the interesting thing, Hawaii is the only state in the United States that's in the coffee belt, so it's the only one that can produce coffee. Some of the territories can, as I've said in the past, like Guam can do it if they want to. They do a little bit. The Marianas can do it. U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico can do it, but they're all territories, whereas Hawaii is a full-on state that produces coffee. So if you see that on the mainland, Kona, you know your coffee came from Hawaii. So I'm here. They gave me the table outside. And this is where my mom would have sat. Like, this is it. This is the same table we were actually at. So this is a little weird for me at the moment. It's nice, but it's a little, I don't know. Anyway, what we're gonna go for here is the charcoal buttermilk pancakes. I remember them being good, not like amazing, but that's just what you gotta do. Okay, it's arrived. We've got the basalt black pancakes with the guava sauce or syrup. Whipped cream, fruit, and everything. Looks really good. This is for you, Mom. In case you guys are curious what the innards look like, it's just, you know, black. But then you kind of take it, and this is your syrup. Instead of using like a maple syrup, you use the guava sauce. So this is good. It looks like a mess because I'm mixing it all together, but it's actually better than I remember it being. And I was talking to my girlfriend, sending her a photo, because she actually used to live down here, and she's like, I hate you right now, because she misses this. She wants the Hawaiian flavors. So if you eat it basalt, you can also bring back the pre-made packaged stuff, which was not as successful. Not surprisingly, the food was good. Actually, it is slightly surprising. I remember those pancakes just being like okay. They were a lot better this time. I have to admit, while I went there for the reason I cited, I didn't think it was going to be as hard as it ended up being. That was actually kind of emotionally taxing, so I'm kind of glad I was out of there. But as far as food goes, food was good, recommended. It's a unique thing you can do down here. One thing that's kind of interesting about Honolulu, and you don't really think about it when you're here because it looks like any other major American city,
Geographically speaking, this is the single most isolated major city anywhere on the planet, just because the nearest major city to it is actually like Anchorage, Alaska, which is like thousands of miles away. Every other city on Earth, the closest ones, are all extremely distant. So it's an oddity of American geography, and just another one of these treasures and amazing things to behold.
We are now back at HNL. Unfortunately for me, my flight's still like 6 hours away, but since I had to check out of the hotel, there was really no specific reason to stay in Honolulu proper, so I'm back here. But I can think of nothing better to do than to use one of my United Club passes and go check out this airport lounge, because I've never been in it. Let's go have fun.
Now, if you guys saw my US Virgin Islands video, you'll notice I talked about an open air airport, open ticketing. There is no seal here. As you can see, you can just walk right in from the outside. St. Thomas does that, and Honolulu does that, but I can't think of any other airports that do. By the way, this is kind of a unique thing. If you're checking bags through to the mainland, they go through an agricultural inspection. Hawaii uniquely does that. It doesn't affect me, I'm not checking a bag, but I thought you guys should know about it. Unfortunately, no clear lane here, but they do have TSA pre-check, so I will obviously take advantage of that. Completed TSA security. I feel bad for these guys because they have two lines separately, one for TSA pre-check and one way down there that's for non-TSA pre-check, and naturally a million people don't read the signs, they don't listen to them saying this is pre-check only, causes congestion. People are like, oh, I've never been to an airport before. I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for that, sorry. But anyway, we are going to head on out this way. Maybe I'll stop in a couple of these kitschy stores and see if there's anything worth showing you, but basically my goal is get to the club lounge. As I told you guys when we were in Guam, POG, it originates here. Passion Orange Guava. It's a drink that turned into a little card game that became a meme. I'm not gonna lie, I kinda want this. Look at that. If I had to invent a single flavor to represent Hawaii, I don't think you could do better than this. Also, these are amazing, but they're unfortunately very hard to find. You wouldn't think so, but they are. But this one store in the airport has them. All right, United Club Lounge time. My credit card gives me 2 free passes per year. I typically am pretty stingy about when to spend them. However, we have like a 6-hour wait, so I figured, why not? This seems like it'll be a good one. I've never been to the Honolulu United Club. Let's check it out. And we are inside the lounge. I'm gonna go over and get some food and some drinks. This is gonna be fun. You guys can see the view out there. I'll give you a better shot in a second. So there's the pre-packaged here. Caprese fruit cups, loaf cake, banana based, some sesame chicken and tofu slaw, island macaroni salad, and a smoked turkey Hawaiian sweet roll, as well as some soups and other things. And over there would be the drink. So there's coffee. So I ended up going with an espresso, well, double espresso because caffeine addict, the banana bread dessert, the macaroni salad, and the Hawaiian sandwich. Thus begins meal 1, because I'm sure more will happen, because fat. There's also an open bar there, well, open to a certain extent, but it's got very nice views, it's air conditioned, you can see the planes, and then there's power outlets, free Wi-Fi, great time. Check it out, they have a self-serve pineapple ice cream in here. Why not? Yeah, I probably should have mentioned that we left the club and we're on our way home. My bad. And I am back. I am in Chicago where it is much colder. I left Guam, it was like 28, 29 degrees Celsius. I think in Celsius, I'm the weird American that does. Chicago, it's negative 13 Celsius. I don't even know what that is in Fahrenheit. It's cold, look it up. But anyway, so, and I'm also very tan now. But yeah, anyway, well, that makes sense. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching this series of videos. I have no idea how long this turned out to be, but hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you could, as always, like, comment, subscribe, leave, like, go into the description and Hit me up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, all that. Follow me on all those places. Thank you very much for watching. I have to make sure I put my hoodie on before I go outside and die. And thank you very much. I'll see you all later.